Awesome. Well, welcome everyone. And we want to get started because we have so much information that's going to come to us by our wonderful guest, Baeth Davis. So we are thrilled that everyone has decided to join us today because this is a monumental moment of our very first New Jersey NBA Women's Committee monthly webinar. So we are thrilled that you are here with us. So I am Laura Brandeo. I'm the chair of the Women's Committee, and I am joined by the wonderful Megan Anderson, that is also part of our committee. And just to let you guys know, what we will be doing is every single month, we will be bringing you a different guest that will have a special topic that we will focus on monthly. So please stay tuned and watch for those announcements as we move forward. Allow me at this time to introduce our wonderful guest, Baeth Davis. She is affectionately known as Dr. Purpose by clients and colleagues. Baeth has over 23 years of experience in life purpose identification and business coaching. She's been featured in Women's World and Los Angeles Times, as well as heard on NPR, BBC5, and Radio Free Europe. Baeth has guided top business coaches, including Ali Brown, Kendall Summerhawk, and Suzanne Evans, and Hollywood celebrities and well-known motivational speakers, writers, artists, and a variety of entrepreneurs in many industries to bring more of their purpose into all that they do. Her greatest happiness is seeing her clients achieve their lifelong goals and experience the fulfillment that comes with living aligned to your design. Baeth is a fellow New Jerseyan, and she loves dancing, hiking, walking on the beach, reading, painting, writing, and traveling. And we are thrilled that you are here with us today.
Thank you. Thank you for that wonderful introduction. I am very pleased to be here today. So before I came on, it sounded like I was tapping into a conversation about goals. Is there anything you want to share with me about that? Illuminate me with what came up in that pre-discussion about goals before I dive in. I kind of like to shape what I talk about based on what's already in the field, if you will, already in the room. So.
Well, it started off, I was encouraging everyone because both Laura and myself, and probably everyone really on this call right now, we're a firm believer that you have to put things out into the universe. You know, the more that we say and tell what our goals are, share the experiences, the journey along the way, I often find that it's, you know, putting it out there or writing it down, which is going to instill it and instill those behaviors and those habits to ultimately get us to reach that goal. So I was encouraging people to put their goals in here, and we have some. And if you guys haven't yet, please put your goals in here and share them with us. We have Paula, who wants to expand her team by 3 loan officers, increase her branch production by 25%, stronger relationships, give back to the community. Love these.
Wonderful. Great. All right. Well, let's dive into this topic. And I'm going to go deep. And when I go deep, I just want to set the container that some of what I may share today might actually be a little upsetting to you, to your own psychology. But I promise you that if you're willing to dig into it, it's going to really help you reach your goals. So I want to give some context about what I mean by that. A lot of the work that I do with my clients, I guess you could call shadow work. And shadow work is really about whatever parts of ourselves we've put in the corner. And some of you may be familiar with your inner child, right? Or your, your shadow or archetypes or that kind of thing. So I'm not going to go way off into that. I just want to presence what's now alive in our culture that people are actually talking about. So one of the things that happens, I'll use a common thing that happens for us in goal setting, and then how you can actually work with your own psychology and emotions and to reach those goals. The new year just started, and very often people will make New Year's resolutions. I'm going to lose 15 pounds. I'm going to start working out 5 days a week. I'm going to get a boyfriend. I am going to buy a house, whatever it is. I'm going to get 3 loan officers on my team. And Megan, what often happens with resolutions?
People, they go sidetracked. Where I put this in thing when I was promoting it, I'm like, we're hitting the 2-week mark. This is where people kind of start to go,
Yep.
and then we have to kind of revert back, but people get
Yeah,
burnt
it's
out.
okay if I have another cocktail tonight to cool off from my stress that I don't know how to cope with during the day because I lack the skills. Right? It's okay if I have 4 donuts for breakfast because I lack coping skills. So a lot of the things that sabotage us are patterns. So I want to explain what this is, and then we'll talk about it in terms of some of the tools I use to help people reach goals. I am, and I want to say this for the record, I am not a trained psychologist. However, I did get a very good education, at a university, that kind of thing. Went to a good university, a university education. I completed that education, and I've been a student of life ever since. And in my own design, I'm a researcher. So if I encounter a problem in my life, I will go into research. And then I will start experimenting with what I'm learning in my own life to see if it works. Now, some of us do that to a lesser or greater degree. It's not right or wrong. There's different personality types. But for the sake of what we're doing today, I'm a researcher. And a lot of what I research is psychology, because I work with people who want to live their life purpose. And they come to me either because they don't know what it is. They know something is waiting for them, but they know it's inside them, but they can't quite access it. Or they're living their purpose, but they're going 2 steps forward, 1 step back, to use that cliched saying, where we're our own worst enemy, right? We create our own self-sabotage, our own obstacles, but we're not actually doing this on purpose. It's totally unconscious. Yes, it's totally unconscious. So because I work with people who are trying to reach goals, and they come to me when they can't reach the goal, and or they're confused about getting to the goal. They might know the goal, but it's not happening, or it's not happening as easily as they know that it could. I think all of us know things aren't meant to be so hard. And I will state for the record, you are not designed to be broke, unhappy, or sick. You're here to prosper. You are designed to thrive. But many times on that road to a goal, we don't thrive, right? We have other people take credit for our work, or we don't finish getting that degree, or we don't return the phone call, or we eat that extra donut, or have another cocktail and then say something we shouldn't at the company party. You know, the list goes on. I mean, we could all day come up with ways that we sabotage ourselves. And then we look in the mirror and go, oh, I did it again. What is wrong with me? Why can't I get to the goal? What is preventing me from maximizing my potential? And it's not true that you only use 10% of your brain, by the way. You use your whole brain every single day. So let's talk about your brain. In healthy brains, a truly healthy brain, all the centers light up based on the circumstances you're in, right? So if you need empathy in a situation, empathy will light up. If you need precognitive strategy, you've got to, let's say, work on your finances for the year. Maybe you've got some estate planning to do. You want to reduce some taxes on that inheritance you're going to get, or you want to buy another property, whatever it might be. And your neocortex knows, well, we got to get out the Excel sheet. We got to run some numbers. I need to talk to my loan officer. I need to figure out what's going on here before I make another investment, right? So we use that part of the brain. And then our reptile brain, fight, flight, or freeze. You're all familiar with that, right? So it kicks in under stress. Unfortunately, if you've had any kind of childhood trauma, which is practically everyone, and if you live in this high stress world, your reptile brain's getting triggered all the time. And this creates a very unhealthy flood of cortisol that messes with your hormones. And I want to tell you, as women, you're not meant to have PMS, and you're not meant to have a bunch of hot flashes during menopause. It's actually not normal. You're meant to just sail through these experiences without any kind of real physical agitation at all. Maybe a little tiredness. Maybe you notice, oh, I need to be quieter, or I need less stimulation, but because it's an intense time for your physical body. But these are not normal experiences for women, and yet they are common, are they not? And the reason they are common is because we are stressed to the max collectively. We're stressed in our tribal family dynamics, church, family, our workplace, And as individuals, we are stressed internally because we're doing battle with ourselves. So in a healthy brain, everything lights up as it needs to. You see danger, you run or you freeze, or you know how to handle danger and you can measure danger. You can recognize if someone's trying to con you. You know, you can say to your girlfriend, hey, I wouldn't talk to that guy. I get a bad feeling. I don't trust him. And the friend says, why? I don't know. There's something in the way his hand moves and that thing he just said jokingly that seemed a little violent. I think we should leave now, right? That's a healthy brain. The healthy brain can measure the speed of an oncoming car and whether or not you should cross the street or make that left turn. You get me, right? So a healthy brain is very flexible. And the way you can measure, and no one has to say this out loud, right? You're all anonymous right now, is to check in with yourself and ask yourself, do I adapt easily to changing conditions? Am I flexible with the people, places, and things in my life? Am I easy come, easy go? Am I able to grieve when I've suffered a setback? Am I able to use my anger to recognize when my boundaries have been crossed? And really just check in with yourself and ask yourself, do I have a maladaptive strategy for dealing with stress? It's very highly likely you do. You may have multiple maladaptive strategies for dealing with stress. Perfectly normal, very common. So what we're all aiming towards in order to reach goals, I know this, I told you I was going to go deep, but I really want you to understand what's happening when you can't reach a goal. In order to reach that goal, we have to be able moment to moment to assess our environment and adapt to what's actually happening. It's called reality. The majority of human beings, I'd say on average, 90% of people do not reality test correctly. Only about 10% of people do. That includes all of us. Also, psychological studies show that 90% of people lie, big lies and little lies, 90% of the time. And guess who you lie to the most? Yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And what you lie about is delusional schemes of instant wealth. Oh, that dangerous guy isn't really dangerous. Oh yeah, she's really my friend, even though she's talking badly about her previous ex-friend. And if they talk about you, if they talk about someone in front of you, they're going to talk about you, or they already are.
Mm-hmm.
You all know this. So that's why you don't talk badly about people. Like if someone starts gossiping to me, they're done. Like I don't even want to get into it with them because I know, and women do this, and women sabotage themselves doing this. So I would just say a resolution for 2022 is if you gossip, knock it off, because you get dopamine seeing other people suffer. It's an addiction. So again, in the brain, it's maladaptive. It's not a good measure of reality. How can we talk about someone who isn't even in the room about what they're doing and thinking and why they're doing it? You don't know what's going on in their head, right? You see what I'm saying? So what happens is we learn to lie to ourselves. And the reason is from early childhood. And I'm not going to get into that now, but I would tell you that any kind of inability to measure reality always stems from childhood, from womb to about age 25. That whole 25-year period is when your brain is forming. So some of you won the parental lottery. You had wonderful parents who were super empowering and encouraged you and loved you. And when trauma did happen, they were there for you, right? They comforted you. They explained to you why you don't run out in front of moving traffic, right? They explained to you why grandpa got mad and spanked you, whatever the thing might be. They explain it to you, they comfort you, you're not traumatized. Now, this is an ideal world, okay? But this isn't what happens. We don't have the trauma explained. We don't get hugged. We don't get comforted. We don't get therapy. It just gets swept away. And then we grow up to be these adults, beautiful career women, trying to make our way in the world, help other people find homes and commercial buildings and help their dreams come true, fulfill our dreams, support our family, all that good stuff. And then you find you keep marrying or dating the same guy and it bankrupts you, or you keep having the same recurrent health problem. Yeah. Or you keep having the same kind of negative friendship that goes south. Okay. Now, what happens in the brain is when we endure these challenges as children and we're not comforted and we're not given succor and hugs and appreciation, what happens is we develop a strategy to deal with danger. It's all about dealing with danger. Let me just say, reaching your goals is how well you deal with danger. All of life is about how well you navigate danger, because we live in a very dangerous world, right? I mean, it's eat or be eaten. That is the world. And the quicker we realize that, the safer we'll be. So we're always coping with imminent danger, whether it's being betrayed or lied to or smeared or losing money or not getting the deal or whatever it is. We're always encountering this danger. And so as children, we will adapt a strategy. And I won't go into all the strategies. I think there's like 10 main strategies, but we go into these different strategies, and it creates a track in the brain, right? It creates a pathway you go down. And then it becomes very difficult to shift the track, right? To get onto a new train track. And so you keep repeating the pattern that doesn't work. Now, here's why it's so challenging to change it. And this is where I'm going to ask you all to make sure you keep a journal. I'm going to give you some journaling tips that'll blow your mind. It's going to change your life. It's not a New Year's resolution, but remind me if I forget, okay, Megan and Laura, if I forget about the journaling. All right, so you've got this track you're going down. And for some of you, it works pretty well, you know, because there's a good 30 to 40% of people that are in like a healthy range of functioning. So let's just establish baseline healthy people who reach their goals easily. Yes. And then we can get into how you can start reaching your goals without sabotaging them, stressing yourself out. The main thing I see is that people that are aware they've got an unhealthy strategy will just apply more effort. They'll work harder. And our whole culture says this, oh, you got to work harder. You got to work hard for your goals. I'm like, well, no, you don't. You do need to work and apply effort. But if you love what you're doing, it's not hard, you see? But if you don't love what you're doing, or you love what you're doing, but there's something telling you you can't have it, you're at war with yourself. All right, so you get this track in your brain, and it becomes very difficult to change it. And the problem is you don't know why you have it. You don't know why you chose this strategy. So what I'm going to invite you all to do in your journaling tonight or tomorrow morning is to ask your little self, your inner child, if you like, little Megan, little Laura, the little girl, little boy inside. Ask that child, what do you need me to know so that I can keep you safe? What do I need to know? I, the adult self, need to know to keep you safe. And what happened in our childhood together that you don't want to remember, that you don't want to look at? I promise you, if you're willing to look at what your mother, father, and any caregiver that caused you pain that you couldn't resolve, this is the key piece. It isn't trauma that you resolved, right? It's like the, I went to Catholic school and the nuns beat me. They beat me. I mean, it was no joke. I mean, bruises, hardcore for a while. And that scarred me for life. I'm still recovering because I trusted this authority figure. My parents entrusted this authority figure. They managed to get me out of the school because my parents actually protected me. But nevertheless, the trauma was done. And my family was so traumatized by the fact that I got traumatized, no one talked about it. Did I get therapy for that? No, right? So I go through life, and I'm going to tell you my maladaptive strategy that I fortunately have pretty much conquered. I would befriend bullies. I always try to make friends with bullies. Like the bad kids at school, I understood them. I could help them, right? Bully boyfriends, bully bosses, bullies. And I couldn't understand why this is happening. My parents aren't bullies. You know, I couldn't figure it out. And then I remembered, oh, when I was 5 years old, this grown adult woman was smacking me around. No one had ever raised a finger to me. My parents never said one negative thing to me in my whole life. They've never put me down. They've been critical, but they've never put me down. So you can see how that kind of scenario, and that's just one of many, I'm sure you all have horror stories you could share. That maladaptive strategy takes a lot of energy to maintain, right? And what I do, or did, was I minimize danger. right? I'm a danger minimizer. Now it's fine. I can handle it. Now, some of you do this, you overachievers, right? I can handle, working 16 hours a day. You're not managing danger approach. No, you can't work 16 hours a day. You're going to get sick, right? If you don't get 8 hours or 9 hours of sleep a night, and you're not one of those rare 2% of people that only need 4 hours of sleep, and you just chronically are sleep deprived, you're going to get diabetes. You're going to get cancer. You're going to have a heart attack. I can guarantee it. I'd lay all my money down on it. That's not what you want. That doesn't serve your goal. But understand that you feel working 16 hours a day, you're one step ahead of what? Danger. Why are you so anxious? Why are you depressed? Why are you pushing yourself? It's not from your current reality. Because when you're in current reality, you feel good. In current reality, you feel competent, and you can handle pretty much whatever comes your way because you're flexible in your mind, and you can relate to the person in front of you without projecting your strategy onto them. Okay, so that's a very, very short psychological lesson in why we get in our own way with our goals. Now, I want to give you some tools so that when this stuff, is this helpful to you all? Is this making sense, Laura?
And
Yeah?
it makes complete
Okay,
sense. And
okay.
and it's funny, Beth, what as you were saying about being adaptive, right? Do you know that that is the #1 skill for being successful? Like there's a whole TED talk about it, that
Oh, I have
being
chills.
able to adapt. Yes,
Yeah.
like you nailed it. Because when we can adapt, and listen, we're all mortgage professionals on this call right now. We know that going into 2022, it's different than 20 and 21. And we are coming into this new cycle, and we have to be ready to adapt. So Beth, yes, you are doing very well, and you're getting lots of yes.
Okay, good.
On this
Good.
slide here.
Good. Yes, wonderful, wonderful. Because, one of the things, because I'm a nerd and because of my childhood trauma and the way my life has played out, I have become an investigator, and I feel like part of my life goal is to crack the code for as many people, many humans as possible on how to resolve their childhood trauma. Because I am a big believer, it is the #1 problem in this world. The #1 problem in this world is an inability to properly handle danger. Because as humans, we have some very basic goals. Avoid danger so we don't die. #1. That's #1, right? The reptile brain, all living things don't want to die before their expiration date at a normal lifespan, right? So a normal human lifespan is around 86 years. Anything you get beyond 86 years is bonus years, right? So people are like, I want to live to 125. I'm like, you'll be lucky if you live to 86. So any year after that's a bonus. I absolutely believe it's great my goal is to live to 125, provided I can be physically agile and my brain is working. Otherwise, there's no point, right? So I do aspire to living longer because I have lots I want to do. I'm excited about achieving goals, but that may or may not be realistic. So we have an 86-year lifespan. We don't want to die before we finish our assignment here. And every human being knows in their DNA, and this goes to human design, which I'll touch on in a moment. It's one of the tools I use. In your DNA, there's actually a genetic imperative to find your life's purpose. It lives in our DNA, and it is part of our survival mechanism, because a life without purpose makes you feel like you want to die. In point of fact, you give your life the meaning it has. You are the meaning maker in your own life. And the only game there is to play, there's only one game, and you've got to play it well. And the game is fulfilling your life's purpose. That is the only battle to fight. And it doesn't require guns and swords and knives. It doesn't, right? It's about doing battle with your own limitations and your own misconceptions and maladaptations to achieve that purpose. So every single one of us does not want to get to the end of our days and look back and say, I missed it. I missed the boat. You've all heard that. I missed the boat. The boat's heading to Europe. They've already smashed the champagne bottles on the bow. And I'm standing here with my 2 first-class tickets and my sweetheart, and we missed the boat. That sucks. We don't want that. No one wants to miss the boat. So to summarize this, all of us are doing our best to mitigate and avoid danger so we can survive our lifespan and live our purpose. That's life in a nutshell. And we cannot do this without other people. But it isn't about using people like they're objects. It's not about that. It's about interacting with people in a relational way, which recognizes that they are a lot like you and a lot different from you, both. So you have to be adaptable because people are different. Some people are shy, some people are extroverted, some people are aggressive, some people are timid and passive, and that will really throw you off in a business negotiation if the timid, passive person doesn't say their part, right? You can sabotage individually, you can sabotage in groups, right? But we're all different people. So we want to survive so we can fulfill our life purpose. Then our next imperative is to find a sexual partner to reproduce. I mean, this is at the most reptile level, right? But we're drawn to whoever we're drawn to sexually to create union. And then if children are produced, or even if something's created, like you create a vineyard with your partner, let's say, or you build a real estate company, you know, you want to protect the creations, the progeny, whether they are people, places, or things, right? You want to ensure that what your business has a long life, that your children have a long life, and that when they grow up, they are capable, competent adults with good self-esteem and confidence, right? That is the goal. A good parent is being a good enough parent. A good enough parent makes sure that when the child is in danger, they get them out of danger. And once the danger is passed, they process the danger with the child. Otherwise, you're going to raise a narcissist or an antisocial personality child, and those are usually boys, statistically. Or if you're a girl, you'll grow up and be a people pleaser. You will be a yes person. You will have poor boundaries. You will have poor communication skills, and you will minimize danger. You will idealize people who don't deserve your idealization, and you will chronically be abused and rejected and criticized and taken advantage of. And all you're trying to do is help. Am I right? All you're trying to do is be a giving person. Yeah, well, that's your strategy, and it's not working. And there are some men who choose, obviously, I'm guessing it's about, these are guesstimate statistics based on my research, but and my life experience and working with thousands of people. But I would say about 85% of women, the maladaptive strategy is some version of people pleasing, from the most minor, like you kind of adapt yourself to mitigate someone's temper, but you're not a total doormat, all the way to someone who becomes a codependent. And that wouldn't be any of you. A codependent has usually no career. They don't have a very functioning life. Yeah. Because their life is all about the other person. They've made the other person their life purpose. No. Very toxic. Now, that's about 85% of maladaption in women. Not all women. I'm not saying this is 85% of women, but people, for the group of that maladapts, is about 85%. And then men will, because they have more testosterone, right, they will typically choose an aggressive strategy. Have you not experienced this? How many of you on here who are women have been mansplained? Where 10 times more than this dude you met at the conference, and he starts saying, oh, you should read this book by so-and-so, and hey, have you heard of it? And you're like, yeah, I am that person, and I wrote that book. Would you like my autograph? I mean, seriously, this happens to people. This has happened to people, right? Probably happened to all of you, right? Or, what's another one? They mansplain. I'm talking maladaptive. I'm not talking good guys. There's lots of good guys. We're not including them. That's the well-adapted guys. But men will choose the aggressive strategy. And then they'll often alternate it with playing a victim. So you feel sorry for them because they know how to manipulate the women to be doormats and give everything to them. So you cook for them and you clean for them, and it's never enough. And you just keep trying, and you think like a little child, well, if I try harder, daddy will love me. And that's really all that's going on. To make this so super childlike simple, all that's really going on with these strategies that don't work is we're trying to get love. We're trying to finally get mommy and daddy to say, I love you. and you're wonderful, and I'll keep you safe, and I'll make sure you have all the best advantages and the best education, and I will look out for you, and I will be your champion, and I will never abandon you, and I will be your friend into old age, and I will see to it that you have a marvelous life. Now, isn't that what we want? Yes, of course. So someone asked, do you think the aggressive strategy is due to intimidation? Yes, because all of these strategies, remember, start when you're little children. So the guy that grows up to be in prison because he's murdered 18 people, how do you think he was treated as a child? Provided he wasn't born with brain damage. Some people are born with like Ted Bundy. You know, they're just born like that. They're very, very rare, by the way. A true psychopath like Ted Bundy, very rare. The rest of us, we don't get proper processing with danger. And so what happens with aggressive people is they decide, I am going to become aggressive to ward off the danger of this caregiver that's beating me up, right? Or burning you with cigarettes, or, you know, we read every day these you think, how could these people murder their children? Well, you don't even want to know what was done to them. They were children, and then they actually survived it. They survived it. And so often the aggressive strategy is to get revenge on those caregivers and to keep everyone at a distance. So we don't need to spend a lot of time on that, because it's probably not most of you in here. Your life wouldn't be working with an aggressive strategy, especially not in the real estate industry, because it's all about put a smile on your face. It's about the other person, get them what they want, right? So you have to be very able to put on a smile, and a sincere smile, right? Now, one of the strategies is many women fake joy. They fake being happy. So they fake it. And what's underneath it, and if this is you, you know if it's you, what's underneath it is tremendous anxiety. I need to be happy at all times so that I keep everyone else happy. Do you see? So I could go on and on about all these strategies, and I can put a link if you want in the chat. I can give you a link to give out that takes you to a site, a psychological site that actually has a chart. It's not my site. It's from a professional PhD psychiatrist, psychologist, researcher who's mapped all this out. But I think it's very important. It's very cutting edge. And once you see your strategy, you can start changing it. All right. Any questions so far before we get
I
into?
just want to come in and, you know, you talked about journaling to our little self.
Yes.
And, you know, you shared your story. I'm just going to briefly share mine. People may or may not connect with it, but it goes into why this is so powerful and why you guys need to do this. So, you know, growing up, when I was a little child, my dad left for a job. Now, as a child, in my eyes, you know, my parents were still together, they're happy, whatever. But as a child, I'm like, oh, daddy doesn't love me. Like, he's gone, he's leaving. And it took me a long time of what you talk about, the shadow side, and just, you know, making everything a mess in my life and repeating these same toxic kind of behaviors, to notice that it was really keeping me from achieving my goals. Things like, you know, I had to trust other men in my life in order to reach milestones in business. I had to get to that point to be able to trust them. It also hit the point too where I noticed that I would avoid certain conversations because I would be afraid that they would just leave, right? And it took awareness, first of all, awareness that that was the trigger in my life that was creating these toxic patterns. But it was also the belief, I believed that this would happen due to my past. And when I sat down and wrote to my little me, it was kind of two portions. One was kind of what you talked about, you know, why are you feeling this way? What from your past do you want to look at? That was really powerful for helping me gain an awareness. But the other aspect that was really powerful for me was forgiving my little self, forgiving my teenage self for dating that terrible boyfriend or getting in these toxic behaviors and patterns, and just forgiving myself. And I'm going to tell you guys right now, because many of us, you know, in the mortgage space, we're all very analytical, numbers, you know, masculine in that form of energy and space, that it can be really challenging, I think, for people in our industry to do an exercise like this. So what I would encourage you guys to do is do a little self-love exercise beforehand, whether that's taking a bubble bath or going for a walk. I think that that really helps. And another thing that helped me is I actually took out a little picture of myself. And as I'm sitting there writing that letter, I'm looking at my little me, and all these emotions and all this stuff is going to be coming back. But that awareness is just super powerful. So I love that you brought up that exercise, because that was such an internal pivotal point for me in my life and my healing. And then you talk about, you know, how you have to come back to reality. Is this actually reality? So when I noticed that that was a trigger for me, where I would go into these toxic behavioral patterns, I would have to sit down for a brief moment when I didn't want to have that conversation with my boss or my coworker, because I was afraid of everyone either like leaving or freaking out or, you know, causing an argument. I would have a deep breath and I would say, okay, if I really have this conversation, are they actually going to leave? Are they going to quit this job? Are they going to leave? Are they going to fire me? Are they really going to do that? And once I knew that that was just my regular pattern and these emotions that come up, but I sat down and I took the time to pause and ask those questions, it really helped me get in the state of, okay, that's not really reality. They're not going to leave. They're not going to fire you. This is probably, you know, the worst thing that could happen.
That's right.
And then once I noticed that, and then I had the conversation that I was uncomfortable with having, the more that you build upon those behaviors of, oh, they didn't leave. Oh, they didn't fire you. Then you start to change that and reframe that belief that's in yourself.
Yes. Well said.
Very good.
Wow. Beautiful. Yeah. So here's another little like quick tip on manifestation and reaching your goals. To be super, to your point, Megan, what you just shared is we need to become really good reality testers. So this is the next journal exercise. And this one, if you do it, you will start, I guarantee, I don't like to make promises, but I can nearly guarantee you're going to start seeing changes quickly. And it's this. And I want you to try it for like 1 week. You don't just try it for a week, because it's going to be a little labor intensive, but I promise you, if you do it, you will know yourself like you've never known yourself before. After every meeting with a person, whether this person is your spouse, your child, your new prospect, a current client, a repeat client, someone on the phone, on customer service, total stranger. After the interaction's completed, and hopefully it's completed successfully and no one is injured in the process and everyone feels good about it, that's ideal. After the interaction, I want you to write down how you felt. Number one, what did you feel? Better, what did you feel in that interaction? What did you really feel? Did you feel intimidated? Did you feel supported? Did you feel supportive of another? You know, what did you feel? That's very important. Now, here's the thing about being analytical and not wanting to feel and not wanting to do these exercises. That is a maladaptive and dangerous strategy. You must feel your feelings to be in reality. Feelings are how we know our boundaries. The only way you can have good boundaries is to be deeply in touch with your feelings and the world around you. Accurate reality testing. Healthy people do not dismiss negative data. That's why the world's in the state it is right now, where people saying it's this or black and white thinking. Black and white thinking is a 2-year-old. The world is mostly injured 2-year-olds, just so you know. Most of the adults walking around, you, me, and everybody else, 90% of us, injured 2-year-olds trying to have political debates. Lacking in maybe nuance, subtlety, reality. This is why. Because people have cognitive dissonance and cognitive bias. And so you only see what you want to see. You only hear what you want to hear. Oh, my team's the greatest. Are they really? My religion's the greatest. Really? How do you know this? No one knows it. It's nonsense. It's childlike nonsense. But until you can reality test, you're really in trouble. So after the meeting with each person, what did I feel in that interaction? Right? Get really into, I felt afraid. Oh, I felt afraid. Okay. Once you've identified the feelings, then the next question is, what is my intuition telling me that is true about this interaction? What is the truth there? That's the question. And you may be stunned at what comes up. It might be something like, oh my God, my teenage son is heartbroken about his breakup with his girlfriend. He may need some therapy. He's really in pain. He's suffering deeply. I need to support him. You see, that's accurate reality testing. If you have an overlay of boys shouldn't cry and he's a sissy and he should man up and oh, it's just childhood love. Well, that's the most precious love is childhood love. Your first love is the biggest deal in your whole life because it will set the pattern for the rest of your life, good or bad, if you don't change it. And if it's bad, you're going to have bad relationships your whole life until you die. That's kind of doomsday, isn't it? And a little bit of doomsday will keep you in reality. So what did I feel? What does my intuition tell me? Number 2. And number 3, what is the corrective action I need to take, if any? What is the corrective action I need to take, if any? Now, it may be that you don't need any corrective action. There's nothing to correct. It might be, I need to write that person a thank you note. I need to send that person a little gift. I need to, you know, using the son example, if many of you probably have sons, the son example. Oh no, he's actually doing okay, but he did ask me for that new baseball glove. And he's really been through a rough time. And I think I'm going to get it for him. I'm going to surprise him with the baseball glove. I think it will just cheer him up a little bit. You know, it might be something that small that shows the other person not only do you care about them and love them, you're actually acknowledging their reality. And if you can start acknowledging your reality first, it will allow you to acknowledge the reality of others. Do you know how this makes you a ninja in business? This is non-manipulation manipulation right here. This is called being a master of life. So I'm going to give you a baseline right now of what healthy looks like. I'm going to read you a description from a psychologist because one of the things that's driven me crazy my whole life, like I'm not literally crazy, but makes me agitated, is when people say things like, just be yourself. Well, I am being myself, and being myself is not working in various parts of my life pie. So imagine your life, you have a life pie, and like maybe you do great in friendships and you do great in investing and you're great in your business, but your personal intimate relationships, or maybe you're really good at love and you have this wonderful marriage, but you don't have the confidence to go back to school and get your real estate license. You see? So whatever the place is in your life pie, that's the place where you know that the strategy isn't working. So it's not, for most of us, it isn't every part of our life. You know, that saying also, how you do everything is how you do anything is how you do everything. Not true. Absolutely not true. You have millions of strategies for millions of scenarios, and all the scenarios you haven't even encountered yet. The brain is very facile. However, if you have a trauma strategy, which most of us have in one of those pie slices, where do you land? On the train track that doesn't change, right? And it just keeps repeating. So it would drive me a little nuts when people say, just be yourself. And I would say, well, what is normal? How do we even measure ourselves and our progress towards reaching our goals in life if we don't even know what we're measuring it against? So I'm going to read you this. Let me just pull it up here. And okay, can you still hear me? Yes?
Yes.
Okay, this comes from Dr. Patricia Crittenden, Crittenden. I believe she's in her late 60s, early 70s. Incredible contributor for all of us in humanity, to the human family, of understanding why we do what we do and why we are how we are. Okay, so this is called integrated true information. I just want you to take that title in. Integrated true information, and it's called it's in the B strategies. And if you Google her, you'll find all sorts of charts and things if you want to go deeper into this. But I just want to read you the baseline. All right, so this strategy involves a balanced integration of temporal prediction with affect, meaning you're able to predict timing on things, right? You understand how far that car is away before it hits your car. You understand how much time you need to complete a project. You know how to show up on time. You can read your calendar, you can read the room, right? And the affect is knowing how to modulate your feelings to the situation without hurting yourself, right? So some people put on a false or what we call phony affect, but they're not trying to be phony. Just remember, anyone who seems sort of fake or they're trying too hard, they're a wounded child and they're just trying to get your love. I mean, that's everyone. You know, anytime you encounter any kind of maladaptive behavior, just remember it's their wounded child that they brought to the meeting. All right. These individuals show all kinds of behavior, but are alike in being able to adapt, back to Laura's point, to a wide variety of situations in ways that are self-protective, that protect their children, and that as often as possible cause no harm to others. Now this next piece is a game changer. And this next piece is really what you need to practice and develop for the rest of your life to easily, effectively create the life you want, experience the outcomes and satisfaction, fulfillment of reaching your goals. A healthy person communicates directly. They negotiate differences and find mutually satisfactory compromises. So there is no pure win-win in this world, but there is compromise. And it's mutually satisfactory. So if you and I negotiate on something, a good negotiation means I gave up a little and you gave up a little, and we're both satisfied with the outcome. A good negotiation is not where one party gets everything they want and the other party doesn't. That's a bad or negative or maladaptive negotiation. Okay, so I'm going to repeat this again. You communicate directly. Women as a group are awful at this, awful, unskilled. You communicate directly, you negotiate differences, and you find mutually satisfying or satisfactory compromises. Now, this next piece is going to save your butt. They distort cognitive and affective information very little, especially not to themselves. Again, 90% of people lie 90% of the time, mostly to themselves. When you do not distort your cognitive information and the affective information that's coming from how other people are behaving around you, you're in reality. Finally, these individuals display a wider range of individual variation than anybody else using the other strategies. And the reason for this is everybody else must constrain or constrict their functioning to employ the 3-year-old strategy. This strategy functions in infancy. By adulthood, these types, called the B type, can be differentiated. The naive B type simply had the good fortune to grow up in safety and security. The mature B type, on the other hand, has reached neurological maturity in their mid-30s. That's pretty impressive, in their mid-30s. They function in life's major roles: child, spouse, parent. They carry out an ongoing process of psychological integration across their relationships, their roles, and contexts. In other words, you are able to grasp with life's complexities. So what does this mean about reaching your goals? Well, it means that if you keep being thwarted in reaching a goal, you have not addressed the core wound. That's all it means. So when clients say to me, well, I already dealt with that. I'm over that. Why am I dealing with this again? And I say to them, well, you haven't dealt with it because you're still dealing with it. You've been trying to deal with it, and we don't want to minimize all the hard, wonderful effort you put in, right? Like Megan was talking about. But what Megan's doing, she doesn't stop doing, right? Megan has to do this for the rest of her life, stay in touch with reality, as is Laura, myself, all of us. You are here on the planet, ultimately, to fulfill your purpose. And the only way you can fulfill your purpose is you must become a learning machine. You must become adaptable. And that means anytime you run into a problem, you don't immediately blame shift and, oh, blame it on circumstances, blame it on the pandemic, blame. That won't help you. It won't. There's a lot of things out in the world you can't control that will impact you, that will disrupt your industry. You're not in control of those things. You're not. Don't think you are. And don't blame those things, because all those things in the outer collective that are impacting us, we all created together, the 90% of us with our maladaptive strategies. It's a co-creation, this world. Everything that's happening outside of you, you contributed to, every bit of it. You did, but you're not in control of it because you're one of 8 billion people. So it's an 8 billion person human story. And 8 billion people are bringing either health, right? Support, love, able to read the situation like Megan did, like, oh, is this conversation really going to get me fired? Or is this conversation really going to make that person storm out of the room? Well, possibly. It could happen. That's reality too. Yeah, it absolutely could happen. And you know what? I have to have the conversation to move forward to find out who I'm actually dealing with. And then what happens is you start to see very quickly who you can trust and who you cannot. That's called being a grown-up. That's how you test reality. It's being prepared for anything, able to adapt to anything and not whine about it. Definitely don't spend your time complaining, because that will just entrench the trauma and make it worse. Don't gossip. Don't complain to other people. Talk it through with a friend. Get yourself a therapist. I am a big believer. Every single person needs a therapist, and the person without someone that they're professionally paying to talk to, unless they're a normal B type and they've, they're the best therapist would be the B type, right? They're the best husbands and wives and coworkers, right? That's who we want. We all want to be that person, right? Don't we? And we all want to be surrounded by that person who's honest and direct with us. They tell us what they want. They don't manipulate for it with some silly sandwich method or closing strategies or any of that nonsense. It's a manipulation. And by the way, when you're doing closing strategies on people, you're emotionally abusing them. It's emotional abuse. So I'm going to explain what abuse is so you can start seeing how you get abused and how you abuse others. This will also change your life. We tend to think of abuse as extreme, right? You get punched in the face, or you get sexually molested, or someone, steals all your money. Okay, those are really bad, horrible things. But most abuse is just something like, oh, hey, Sally, nice haircut. I'm kind of surprised that style looks so good on you. Right? You feel it. You feel the cutting. You feel it. And but if you have a maladaptive strategy, what do? You deny it, or you minimize it, or you get aggressive and you cut her down, right? You see what I mean? You go to either people pleasing or aggression, or you ping back and forth instead of saying something like, ouch, that hurt my feelings. And I'd really appreciate it if you're going to deal with me, you're not passive aggressive, because if you do it again, it'll be our last conversation. I don't operate like that. I don't roll like that. And I don't tolerate that in my life. If you can't accommodate that, then we're not going to have a very good time together, are we? You see how direct that is? Doesn't hurt anybody. Directness can feel harsh to people who are unable to grapple with the truth. People say, oh, the truth is harsh. Oh, the brutal truth. I'm like, yeah, truth can be pretty brutal. It can. But if you can't face truth, you're going to get mowed over by it. The world will keep moving while you're left in the dust, right? So we are in this collective as humans. And the only way we shift the world around us, the only way, is we shift it inside because of the law of mirroring. So let me explain the law of mirroring. You're probably familiar with the law of attraction, right? I promise you this call would be about goals. The law of attraction. The law of attraction is the law of mirroring. So you could be highly competent in your business, but you keep dating felons. You can't help yourself. You're just drawn to criminals. No one knows about this. You keep it a secret. Why? Well, your dad, he ran a mafia gang, and your family had a ton of money, and that you grew up in this really abusive, dysfunctional dynamic. And so you've made most of your life function, but you keep dating felons. Okay. That's just one way it can show up. And you keep thinking, wait, I'm so integrated. Why do I keep attracting a felon? Well, you keep attracting what you're trying to heal. Right? So if you want to stop attracting it, heal it in yourself, because you're never going to fix it through the other person. That's a childlike strategy. Now, the reason we keep repeating history is when we're 3 and we develop this strategy, we're still with those caregivers who may not be safe, right? So we're hoping the strategy works so we can, you know, grow up and escape, basically, or, you know, just get out of it, or maybe win their love, win their support. But when we try that as an adult, what happens? It just never works. It just never works. It just keeps failing. So the law of mirroring. So here's how you can start reaching your goals faster. Begin to notice when obstacles come up, what it's reflecting back to you that lives in you. And here's a trick to it. It's usually the opposite of what you think it is. So I'll give you an example of this. Think of a real estate example. All right, let's say you're in commercial real estate. And let's say that, you know, in your childhood, you had a father who always cut corners. And maybe he was little, you know, had a little side cash business that was illegal or something. And you grew up around this and you kind of learned these, you know, you watched, but you realized, oh, I don't want to be like that. But then you keep hiring, I'm going to be very specific here. You keep hiring building inspectors who cut corners, who don't really tell you the truth about the building. And on top of it, maybe they don't even finish the job because they're lazy inspectors, but they talk a really good line. So they don't actually do their job. They make up a bunch of BS and they charge you a ton of money. And then somebody buys the building and then you have a lawsuit or whatever, right? Because the inspection was dishonest. I'm just using that example, okay? The law of mirroring. You have to look at yourself and go, wait a minute, this isn't a one-time thing. Like normally, like one-time things, that's the cost of doing business. Let's clarify. So cost of doing business, one-time thing, you learned your lesson, and it usually never happens again. You put some strategies in place because you're adaptable so that you make sure you always get a good inspector, because it was a one-time thing. You're never going to have that happen again. You're going to do your homework. You're going to ask around. You're going to do a criminal background check. Please, ladies, on everything, every customer, anyone you date, anyone your children date, background check. I cannot stress this enough in our social media world. There are so many fakers out there. It's a dangerous world. I'm just saying to you, do your homework. So it's a one-time thing, but the other person, every single time, these inspections are disasters. Now it's your problem. Now you've got to get that journal out and look inside and go, why does this keep happening? And who in my childhood does this remind me of? Because all you're doing is being loyal to mommy or daddy. Remember that. When you have a negative pattern that keeps repeating and keeps repeating, you're trying to patch things up with mom, dad, or your nurse, or your nun, or whoever was your caregiver, your primary. You're trying to fix it, and it won't work. So now you have to realize, oh my gosh, I've got to go back to that core wound. I've got to feel it. And that's not something we'll get into here. You need therapy for that because you could get re-traumatized, right? You go back to the wound, like Megan said, feel it, journal it, and then ask yourself, what would be a better strategy going forward to pick my inspector? Yeah.
Beth, this has been eye-opening. This has been so phenomenal. And I mean, I think we start with journaling, right?
Yes.
That's our first step.
Yep.
So we want everyone out there to take that as our takeaway that we are going to start immediately. And Megan, thank you so much for sharing your experience, because I think you really put it into a way of applying it, right? Not just doing it, but applying it. And this was phenomenal. So a lot to digest. I think everyone on here, we thank you so much for joining us for our very first episode, and join us next month with a special guest, Ivy Zellman. And you don't want to miss it. But she is amazing, absolutely amazing. February 16th, I believe, right, Megan? At 2
I think
p.m.
so. You guys will get it in an email recap. That one will be about setting boundaries, sexism. It's going to be good.
Oh, it's gonna be a good one. And Beth, thank you so much.
You're so welcome. And would it be all right if I let people know about my free Facebook group? Because I do trainings in there. I'll just put it in the chat to everyone. The Facebook group is where I train about human design.
Awesome.
I'm so sad we didn't get into that. I gotta say.
I know. And the thing is, with human design, what I'm finding is the human design will show you how you're designed to thrive.
Awesome.
But first you kind of need to get the maladaptive stuff out of the way for it to make sense. So I invite people, come to the group. We do free trainings in there, and I can look at your chart and we can go to the next step. But I really wanted to set the groundwork for what you requested about how we reach the goals and what gets in the way. And I so thank you all for your time today. And I wish you a 2022 where you're adaptive and flexible and not in resistance and really achieving those goals.